Hello everyone, welcome to the podcast When Was the Noughties? A retrospective look back at the decade of the noughties. Years 2000 to 2009, it was a 10-year period of randomness, weirdness, craziness. Do you remember it? I sure as hell don't. And that's the whole point of this podcast. The whole podcast idea was brought to me because I've looked back at times and I kind of almost remember what the 90s was like, and there was a vibe and there was an element of what it was, and then I look back at what the teens was like, the 2010 onwards and to now, and it was parts of my life which I remember. That little period in the middle of my life, and lots of people out there's lives, 2000 to 2009. What the hell happened? When was it? What happened? What did we do? What was going on in the world? Granted, when I put this together and I said I'm going to sit down, I'm going to talk to people, and we're going to have a little trip down memory lane, we're going to have a little chat about the noughties, which is what it's called, by the way. I'm not just making that up, that is what it's called. A lot of things happened. You can Google it. We've got the privilege of Google. We didn't have Google back then as much. We'd Ask Jeeves, I think. One of those things. And the idea was just sit there and just look at what we were doing, what we were living in there. I'm lucky enough to have been growing up in that time period. I think, I'd say ages 14 to 24, 25. I think that was kind of my age period. I haven't done the maths. I've not even bothered looking at it. But I'm just working it out because it's my birthday. But so there was a time period in my life where I was leaving school, going into college, getting into adulthood. So to me, it's a strange period to look back on now and see what happened and experience again what we did and how we lived. It's a fun podcast, trust me. I'm not here to talk about politics. Trust me, there's a lot of politics that happen in the noughties which people will want to talk about. I'm not here to make a really serious debate about the way we lived in the noughties. I just want to know what happened. I just want to know how we lived, things we missed, things now that look really strange. This is, the things that we look back on and go, did we really do that? I'm pretty sure people would look back at the 70s and go, did we really wear those flares? Did we really? Was our hair that big in the 80s? There's a hole in the ozone layer based on the amount of hairspray that come out of people's houses in the 80s. In the 90s, did we just not wash for 10 years? Did we like tie-dye? That's all 90s stuff. But when we look back at the noughties, it was a weird mixture of like, what was the noughties? What did we do there? There's a lot of stuff that we did in the noughties which we should be ashamed of, and some of them, and also some that we probably look back and go, I don't remember doing that, but you did. Do you know what I mean? That was the way you lived your life. There's fashion trends, there was TV shows, there was celebrities, reality TV, there was we're going to talk about in this episode, which is the very first one, we're going to talk about the Millennium. We forget though, you can't start a noughties podcast without talking about the Millennium, can you? So the idea of this podcast is that I'm going to get different people in. Okay, we're just going to chat shit. We're going to talk about the noughties and just have a bit of fun with it. We're going to reminisce. I don't know these people as such to the degree of like I grew up with them, so I don't know what they were doing during the noughties. So they can tell me. You can tell me as well. There's going to be a lot of stuff that I want to cover over this 10-year period of weirdness. And I'm going to keep saying weirdness, not in a kind of derogatory term, just in a way that I call it weird because it feels like such a weird time that I can't really explain. Do you feel the same? Obviously you can't answer me right now because this is a podcast. I am recording this 1-to-1 and you're listening. If you're talking back at me right now, save your time because you can't talk back at me unless you message me or tweet me. I'm really bad now, not really sorted out a Twitter account or anything for this, or a Facebook page or anything, but obviously I do other podcasts. I do the Bring On The Blah, which is the Blah Blah Land podcast. So if you can find me on Instagram at Bring On The Blah, then message me there because I'll post a lot of things on there. Same on Facebook, but I will probably open up social medias there. I mean, and let's be honest, I get bored of the amount of social medias that I need to open up just to get people out there. But you can always message me on stuff. I don't know, we'll find ways to communicate. This is the first episode. I'm pretty sure there will be links somewhere to what you need to do, or you probably found it via the links, which makes this conversation redundant. So Today, in the first episode of When Was the Noughties, I sat down and I chatted to a friend of mine, someone that I've met through the years, through my blogging stuff throughout the years, on the High Tea Cast, and some blogging and radio stuff and podcast stuff, is Anna. She goes under the name as Miss Trout. She does a lot of empowerment posts on Instagram, and she does a lot of writing. She's an activist, she's a writer, she's an all-round positive human being. Okay, love chatting to her. Always got a lot of time to sit down and talk to Anna. And I thought, okay, we'll just get in and just go straight in. Start at the very beginning. 1999 going into year 2000. Okay, we all know what we were doing then. Unless you weren't born, let's be honest, I'm not going to be, I'm quite an inclusive person. This is an inclusive podcast. But if you weren't even born then, and you're listening, it's quite an interesting thing. Like, what were you doing during the noughties? It's like, if you weren't born, I was born in 2002. Well, there you go. You were being a baby. You were pooing yourself. You were being sick everywhere. And your parents probably paid more attention to you because they weren't taken away with social media and posting up lovely baby pictures of you, because they didn't really have social media much until later in the noughties, when it got to 2010 onwards. I have not really looked at it. Trust me, I'm not the fountain of knowledge when it comes to the noughties. But here we are. It's my podcast. It's here for you to listen to. The noughties. When was it? Let's go over to... This is going to be a weird sort of segue. Let's go over and hear from Adam in the past, but you're present, talking to Anna in the past, but you're present. That's how podcasts work, people. You record stuff and then you put it out there, and no matter what is happening right now, you are listening in my future. You're listening in my future. You're present to me in the past. Time is a construct, people. If we broke that away, we'd be a lot happier. We'd be late a lot, but then if there was no time, would you ever be late? Think about that. See, you don't just get words of wisdom in this podcast. Okay, that's enough of me rambling. I haven't been podcasting for a while. Don't know why. Rambling on. Still haven't started the podcast properly yet. So if I just sort of stop talking, will it? Maybe I could do an edit where it just sort of fades me out. And if it fades me out, it fades me out, and then I just keep talking, and then we move into the actual podcast. Hi, Anna.
Hello, my lovely. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Enjoying this wonderful weather.
Oh, it is hot. We're recording this on a very hot day in July. Global warming has a lot to answer for this weather right now. Torrential rain followed by very hot sun.
Yeah, it's beautiful, but it's scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a little parody of itself.
Yeah. So how you been? How you doing? You good? You good?
Yeah, I am good. I'm good. I am. Yeah, I'm quite happy right now. Also, it's Leo season. I'm going to bring in some astrology here. We've just moved into Leo season, so I'm feeling that. Here I am, hear me roar vibe. So yeah, it's good.
I'm a Leo. If that helps.
You?
I'm a Leo, yeah. My birthday's next month.
Good time. This is your month, man. That's it.
Definitely. It's my month. That's it. Leo season. Be warned, everybody. I'm coming out to get you. I'm going to come up and roar behind you.
Absolutely.
So this is another podcast which I've kind of started, like a little side podcast from my other stuff, from Blah Blah Land, from Not Listening. Because, you can never have more than enough podcasts, can you? I mean, the internet's saturated with them. But let's why not add another in the mix, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, talking and communicating is the way forward. So, why not do it on a podcast?
Exactly. It's either this. So, yeah, it's going to get to the point where I'm just going to record all my phone conversations and just put them out there.
I'd love that. Do it.
I don't think my friends would appreciate it, to be fair. But yeah, so the podcast is all about the noughties, yeah? And we're not talking about naughty as in like you've done something naughty. We're talking about the year 2000 to the year 2009, yeah? That weird decade where I'll be honest, I can't remember half of it because I don't know what I was doing during it. I must be doing something. What was I doing? So the whole idea of this podcast comes out. I was talking to someone and I just thought, what happened in the 2000s? What happened in the noughties? Was I drunk through it? Did I sleep and miss it? Did I hibernate? I mean, and then looking back at certain things, I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember that. But why has it now only come for someone to remind me of what happened? So the idea of the podcast is just to have a bit of fun, to try and dissect and have a little look back at what the hell happened in those like 10 years that it was pre-internet sort of social media craze. It was post, Britpop era. I think, I go political. I'm not a political person. We moved away from the Tories and back to away from the Tories, back to Labour, back to Tories sort of thing. All went a bit pear-shaped like that. We had war and terrorism. This is things I just looked at. Right, these are the big stories.
It's a big stuff, actually. When you look back on it and you're saying all this out loud, it's just like, obviously I haven't forgotten those massive, particularly the political stuff, but a lot actually happened, didn't it, in that decade?
I think maybe we tried to like shut it out for a reason. Maybe there was a reason for it, because they're just the things that I've just sort of thrown out there on there. But we want to talk about a few things today, don't we? We want to have a little chat, and I thought, being this is one of the first episodes, we just go, well, let's start from the beginning, shall we? Let's start from the year 2000, the millennium. Yeah.
What a time!
What a time! Would you? Because we're similar age, aren't we? Right. I won't ask you your age, Anna. Don't worry. I'm not going to be like that.
I'm happy. I will tell you. I am 34.
Right. Okay. I'm 36 next month.
Okay.
So we're similar age, yeah. Do you remember what you did on Millennium Eve, like 1999? Do you remember what you were doing? Because we were in our teens.
I totally do. Mine was not wild. But that said, it was really cool and cool enough for it to be like a beautiful memory for me. So me and my sisters were staying at we stayed over at my grandparents that night. I think my mum was off having a party or going somewhere or something like that. But they're very cool grandparents. So beautiful place by the sea. So I'm from Portsmouth, and they had a gorgeous apartment by the sea. And my granddad was just, he's very, very cool. He was very cool. He's not here anymore, but very cool. And he loved the 70s. And, I'm talking like chest open, wearing medallions, all that kind of stuff. Loved it. And his wife, Diana, is just the most fabulous woman. I mean, think Elizabeth Taylor mixed with, God, I don't know, Elizabeth Taylor. Like it's all about.
That's enough. Elizabeth Taylor's enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful extravagance, like, lots of darlings, all that kind of vibe. So we were there, and it was bloody cool. So I can remember, I remember they had like on the TV, watching all like the countdowny stuff, and like they let us stay out later. And I know a lot of my friends were like at parties, so I was like, I don't know, it must have been about 15 16 maybe, when that, I can't do the maths, but a
bit younger. I think you were a little bit younger than that. I think you must be about 13, because I was about 15.
Okay, yeah, there you go. So, I had friends probably at parties and things, but this felt quite decadent because they got in really beautiful food and, the music channels, they were like flicking with those on the TV, which is hilarious because I don't think they knew what they were doing, but they're like, look, it's 50 Cent. And I just really remember really clearly my granddad being like singing to, I'm going to party like it's your birthday. And being like, hey, this is weird, but this is cool. Like, there's a vibe here. And it was just a buzz, like a really excited buzz. And I just remember really good food, staying in their plush apartment, which was just like a massive treat, and just seeing so many beautiful fireworks over the sea by the beach, like from their window. yeah, it was special. It was special in a weird way because it was really, everything felt really exciting and like hopeful and new. I don't know, there was this like buzz of new beginnings, which now
Yeah.
I'm looking back on it, it's quite sad where we're at right now.
21 years later, if only we'd known 21 years later, we'd be stuck in our houses and watching a pandemic fall in front of us. And
But it just felt really hopeful. I mean, I was young and like, you know, if I was around that sort of age, then that's teenager years, isn't it? And it's all, everything's fucking exciting, but
yeah,
also bloody weird as well at that age. Like you don't, it's not all it's cracked up to be. But that night just felt. I just remember being like, wow, this feels really, really special. Something magic is coming, or like something big is coming. And I guess then the next day we just woke up and everything was the same.
exactly.
It was good. It was a good vibe. I liked the vibe at the time.
Yeah. I think mine was a little bit different to yours. Obviously, growing up in Essex, being caught up. Like I think I was about 14, 15. I think I was when that age one. Like being a Leo, so obviously I'm August baby, so one of the youngest in my years. I went to, this is how I remember New Year's at Millennium. I went to a friend's house party, but it was a family house party. So like, the parents and there was adults there, but they said, "Oh, you can invite loads of your friends from school," and that. So we all went there. Obviously, you get to that point where you got 15-year-olds drinking alcohol. It's going to happen. Like it was 1999, 2000. Get over it. And we were drinking, and I just remember drinking too much, too early, and they'd set up. I remember it very clearly. They set up a shed where people could go to the toilet, right? Where they would set up just like buckets where you would pee in. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. That's quite clever. But I remember puking up into one. And then someone standing next to me going, "Oh, that's helpful." And then they're just pouring bleach into it. So I remember going in there, and I'm like, "This is too strong." But I remember just being absolutely drunk. I don't even think I remember hitting midnight. Even if I did, I might have been like half asleep somewhere. I remember just sort of being so drunk we fell asleep on one of the benches in the gazebo. It's quite a big house in the gazebo. And I just remember sort of going to sleep late and then waking up really early in the morning, like 7 o'clock, grabbing my coat, which wasn't actually my coat. It was someone else's coat.
Classic.
I didn't even realize it was great. It ended up being a coat from Dorothy Perkins, which I'd end up keeping for a while because I was like, okay, fair enough. It is what it is. And then I remember just walking home with a few friends, and it was like an eerie silence across town walking home. And I remember just getting home about 9 o'clock, switching on SMTV with Cat Dealey and Ant and Dec. And then I think I went to sleep. I thought I better go to sleep. I'm hungover. But that was my millennium. It was just a young teenager who got drunk. There was no magic there like you had. You had the vibes. You had the magic.
Just like, you know, a more of a in the moment magic. It's more of a like just letting go, letting it be. But again, like there's still something really beautiful about that. Do you know what I mean? That is still magic in its own way. But wow, Sick and Bleach mixed together are all of that image in my brain now, and that is wow, what a combo.
Yeah. Not safe. Not safe at all. And it's sort of things that I just remember and I talk about. I'm like, wow, I can't believe that actually happened. So Millennium Party, everyone got drunk, right? It was one of those things. So we went into the year 2000, the decade of the noughties, but we nearly never didn't make it because we both looked this up, didn't we? And there was something that was leading up to the millennium, which everyone was scared of, the Millennium Bug. Now, we talk about viruses and bugs right now. This is a different type of bug. We're talking about a technological bug. We're talking about Skynet. We're talking the Terminator. This is what people thought was going to happen. They thought the world was going to end. They thought Do you remember? They thought planes were going to drop out of the sky on Millennium at the midnight. They thought that everything was going to go down completely, and then we were just going to be living in the dark ages because they didn't think that people were clever enough that created stuff that they wouldn't go, oh, well, I didn't put any numbers after that. It's just going to end. It's a crazy.
It?
And it was big, wasn't it?
really big. It was a massive hysterical thing. I remember at school, I don't actually remember like the day I remember before the Christmas holidays, people being like, I don't know if I'm ever going to see you again. Like it was quite heavy as well for young people. I was like, I guess maybe we should say goodbye, like in case, like it's bonkers. I can't imagine my kids being in a situation where they'd be like, okay, guys, just my final goodbyes, just in case. But yeah, people were did you remember like people were like making like little mini bug, like they were like drawing like getting microchips and putting googly eyes on them and being like, oh, it's the bug like personified. Like again, pretty pointless, not really sure why, but it was we joke and laugh, but some people took it really seriously. I remember somebody like literally tinfoiling up all of their technology. I don't know what that was going to do. Not quite sure. I'm not clever enough to know what that would have done to make things different. But covering it all in tin foil and like just sitting there like ready for it to end that night. I mean, what a way to spend your New Year's Eve. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get the fear element, but where did this all come from? Who started? Who told us this was going to happen? I can't even remember.
I mean, I don't know. Part of me feels like that would never happen nowadays, but then I'm like, actually, no, it probably bloody would with social media, with the conspiracy theories out there. I mean, I'm not judging anybody with their beliefs in that, but I think maybe it'd be worse. People would be like, "Oh my god, it's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. Look, this happened in this country." You're like, yeah, I don't know what it was. I think someone had saying along the lines of a lot of the technology out there couldn't go past 1999 because it'd go back to zero, and you just think now you do realize that time is a construct we created, right? It's not something that ends the world. Time doesn't exist outside of our social structure, right? As human beings, we created time to keep going through life, to do so. Dogs have no concept of time. Animals have no concept of time. They do what they do naturally when it fits. Humans don't, right? We go out there, we explore, we look at the moon and we look at the earth and we go, we've gone round here. That's 365 days. We put everything into maths and into a structure of like, this is numbers. This is how we have to put binary code to a degree. This is bang, bang, bang. Animals don't do that. Insects don't do that. They just live with nature. So when someone brought it up and said, "Oh, we're all going to die because our numbers don't match up," it makes a complete like mockery of intellect.
Must be. I mean, but can you imagine if that was said like now? The one blessing is the hysteria was big, definitely big. Like it was a definite vibe. And it's like the next day being like, we're here, I'm alive, like what the hell, like it's weird how you could even think that anyone, I mean, I'm trying to think out how I felt about it, but I didn't believe that was going to happen per se, but I was just like, everyone's talking about it, and I was a young person, easily influenced. Can you imagine now the dangers with social media? At least we didn't have that then to the degree we have it now. Like, can you imagine how much hysteria could build online and Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, all of this, and oh my god, it would just be pretty scary. Actually, it actually felt, I don't know about you, but I feel the Millennium Bug like thing was it was scary, but it was also a bit like tongue in cheek. Like I'm laughing, like it was, and that's not just because I'm an adult now looking back on it, but even at the time I was a bit like, this is a bit mental. What is this? Like, I don't get this. Like, this is strange. Almost funny / maybe it might happen. Whereas, like, there's other stuff. Like, I didn't really take that very seriously. Maybe because I'm not a very technological minded person. So I feel into things. I'm more of a Yeah, that is how I run my life. I just feel into stuff, and I guess you can't really get too many feelings from a piece of technology, or can you? Can you? Maybe
Well,
you can.
I think some people would disagree. There's some websites out there.
I walked into that one, didn't I? Yes.
So Millennium Bug, yeah, like just thinking about it makes me laugh. Absolutely crazy. Another thing, which a Millennium thing was the Millennium Dome. Now the O2 Arena. Okay, so now it makes sense. Now it's a part of like, oh, I get it now. It's an arena for concerts, for stuff like that. When when they made the Millennium Dome and it was just a big dome, you could see it from space. Yeah, you know what I mean, they added it to the EastEnders logo at the beginning, didn't they?
They did as well.
But when did you ever go to the Millennium Dome? Did you ever go on a school? Right, so I went on a school trip there. Okay, in the year 2000, like February, I think it was. What a waste of fucking time that was. Like, it was absolute no meanings behind it. It was literally like someone said, "We're going to create this massive thing," and someone it's like the meeting went like this: we need to do something with all this money because the Millennium Bug's going to kill us all. let's create a massive. Yeah, let's spend it on this massive dome you can see from space. Maybe it'll end up being it'd be like a shelter for people when the world goes to shit. Maybe that's what they did it for. And then it's like they sat there and said, right, okay, well, what are we going to put in this dome? And then they just went, oh, I don't know, whatever you want. And then I just think they got bored and just went, oh, people will come. People will visit. Doesn't matter what's in there. They'll come and visit it. I remember going there. I was so underwhelmed. I mean, again, I was 15 years old, so of course I'm going to be. I'm like a teenager. I remember just going there and just think, what a waste of time. Like, there's a lot of money spent on this. We'll get away with it now. If they made that now, people would be like, no. You're spending a lot of money on stuff that does not need to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, great that it's a concert arena now and everything. That's brilliant. But like, just yeah. Surely, yeah, the whole thing doesn't make any sense. If we were all going to disappear come the very next day, what the fuck? Why would you make that? Why?
such a strange place.
Did you feel excited though before you actually were disappointed? Did you feel excited on the bus or however you got there, the train or whatever? Were you buzzing? Yeah. Did you feel wow, this is gonna be a big thing?
Yeah. I was like, oh wow, we're going to London. We're going to the Millennium Dome. This is like it's a massive thing, and then we'll bigging it up, and we got there. And I do you know what the first thing I did when I got there? Went and got a McDonald's because there was a McDonald's there. And I was like, oh, why not? I'm a teenager. We're at school. Like I can eat what I want. I've been given money by my parents. I'm going to go and have a McDonald's. And then when we walked around it, it was just like we just walked around. It was like a really open nothingness of just. I think I remember one thing we had this pit at the minute. You got to have your photo taken, right? And they would superimpose ET standing next to you.
Shut up! That's not true.
That is true. Genuinely, and you would.
Why ET?
Do you know why? Because now it's coming back to me. Because during that time, ET was starring in BT adverts for phone lines.
BT phone tone, yeah. That's ridiculous. What a link. Eh? Yeah. I know. We'll bring this and put them together.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I do remember getting my photo taken, and they took me to ET. We were like, "No, we've got ET standing next to us." Yes, it's so sad but amazing at the same time.
Please tell me that's up on your wall somewhere.
Oh, I lost it. I don't think I think I lost it within a couple of weeks.
Hey, at the Millennium Dome, could it get any bigger?
Oh, no.
I mean, wow. No. Can you imagine putting that as a package together now for people? Selling that. How do you sell that? It's massive dome that we've bigged up and spent loads of cash on when actually we thought we were all going to snuff it, but actually we're all still here. So ET's a big personality right now on the TV. Let's put the two together. Do you want an ET Millennium Dome experience? Do you want Yeah? Great. Crazy.
Tick. Done.
But also quite funny and quite liberating that people were getting away with that, I suppose. As awful as it is, I mean, that just wouldn't happen now, would it?
No,
You just couldn't.
it's again, like the whole point of this podcast was to talk about stuff from the noughties, and it was a fucking weird decade. Let's be honest. Like, I mean, people are going to listen to this, and they're going to sit there and they're going to have stories to be like, oh yeah, noughties was weird. It was a weird time period of stuff that happened that you can't kind of believe actually happened. Was obviously taken aside, like we mentioned at the beginning, the politics and the really bad stuff, because there's stuff that happened in the noughties which were fucking horrible. But we talk about the stuff that we just lived through day to day life, and the stuff we watched on TV, and the celebrities that were about, and the media and the pop culture. It was a weird time compared to it now. And I'm looking at it from the gaze of 2021, right? Pandemic aside, COVID aside, we're a more accepting society. We're a more diverse, inclusive society. As much as people would like to think we're not, we are, right? I don't think we're a very inclusive, diverse, or accepting for a majority of the 2000s.
No, I completely agree with you there. Yeah, not at all.
And, I think part of that comes to, I think I look at that purely based on the way the media portrayed or treated certain celebrities. You get celebrities every decade, yeah? They go through the rings, but I think we fell into this trap of, in the 2000s and onwards, we treated celebrities like absolute shit because they could get away with it.
Yeah. True. Back that up. Yeah, I agree.
And I think the main reason they did that was because I think they felt like they had the media in particular, the reality TV trend occurred, didn't it? Yeah. 2000. Now, there was one show that happened in 2000 that suddenly it changed the landscape of TV, changed the landscape of what we actually watched and why we watched it and who we watched and what we read in newspapers. What was the show?
Big Brother.
It was Big Brother. Now,
wasn't that just like, it felt naughty and it felt like it was proper voyeuristic, and it was like just mega different to anything I'd ever seen ever.
Yeah, definitely. And I got addicted to it. I loved it. I loved the whole aspect of watching people in a house and be like, that they're like us. That's us.
Yeah.
I could be that person. I could be in that house. And then just they're not doing anything. And it divided the country because people kind of went with it and went, oh, this is great. It's a social experiment. We're watching people. Like, this is fun. Like, it's switch off. Like, we can enjoy this. Like, look at these people and all this stuff. Look at these chickens. They're looking after chickens, for crying out loud. Who looks after chickens on TV?
I've looked after chickens before. Yeah.
And then you had the other half of the country that was just like, don't get it. And you're like, no, you don't get it. And you never will get it. Because this is going to last for like 15 years, this show. And it's going to get crazier and crazier and crazier as we go. So
the first series, like, just wow. I mean, you look at the basicness of the house itself compared to the elaborateness of where it ended up going in the very end. Like, I liked the beginning. I liked that. I would actually like to just strip all of it back down to that kind of thing, because that was more interesting. That was more people focused, I think, rather than like, which is what we all want. We're all at the end of the day, it's all about human connection, isn't it? That's what life is about, or connections to things, connections to others. And I liked watching the dynamics of how different people got on with each other, how they were in a room with each other. Like, it was like really fascinating to watch. But I do remember, like, by a certain point, I think it was like the first 2-3, past like Jade Goody. After that, it started to feel like, the darker side of this started to kick in for me.
Yeah.
I mean, various points I saw it, but we're sitting there. At times we would be watching them like do, like you say, everyday things like having a laugh, cooking food in the kitchen, flirting, getting to know somebody, having, the cat fights and all those kind of things. It was addictive and it was really fun to watch. But then it gradually, especially how, like when you were saying about how these kind of celebrities, because they became celebrities, were treated afterwards, or like talked about in the tabloids at the time. It's just like, wow, the darkness kind of came up. And we're watching people crying, or people who are having extreme kind of reactions to this bizarre situation that they've been put in, because it is bloody weird, actually. It is strange. I mean, it's entertaining, 100%. But past a certain point, I think I really started to be aware of, probably as I was getting older as well. I was a bit more like, oh, we're all talking about this. Like, everyone be chatting about it at school. So, it was the thing. And the finals, I remember the big finals, like they were such like big occasion nights. I was really into it. Loved it. I loved that whole, I'd sit up till, because it would kind of go on all night, wouldn't it? And to like the different stages of them leaving the house. And I loved it. But yeah, there was like a turning point where I was like, oh, this is actually quite dark. And I think that kind of grew and grew the more, and then, well, look at where we're at now. Like it's
exactly,
isn't it?
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I think I'm hoping with this podcast we will kind of dissect and go through these years, and people will have their opinions on stuff as they go along. And I mean, I'm happy to talk to anybody about it, but I just feel like one thing I think, and it's going to be a running thing that happened in the noughties, people lacked empathy in the noughties. And I truly believe that. And I think the more I'm going to talk about this on different episodes with different people about different things, because it's a good 10 years worth of content there, we're going to realize that pop culture wise and the way people lived, there's no empathy there, because people were very self-absorbed. People were very confused. No one knew what to say. And we were, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist or anything here. We were very controlled with what we saw. But then suddenly we opened up the world of the internet and then more media sort of coming in, more channels, more TV shows. It started to, we had to get through the shit to get to now. And even, let's just be honest, now is not perfect time to live, but it's a lot better than it was back then. Yeah. And when we talk about reality TV, and I'm hoping to get some reality TV people on this podcast, because I think that would really help. Reality TV, like you said, the minute the media treated them, the way they treated them, because they took them, they're like, no, you put yourself out there. We have a right now to judge you and take over your life. So no, that's not how it works. And, not to put a downer on quite a happy little podcast that we're chatting about, but we know the effects of social media does on reality TV people. They didn't have social media back then. And thank fuck they didn't.
Yeah.
Really? Because I think people back then would have been so uneducated and they would have just gone crazy with them. And I think there's something that I think we kind of look back and go, wow. Like, so Big Brother is a platform of what reality TV was and how it turned the pop culture around. But the noughties, all in all, Anna, I think this was a good start to just ripping that Band-Aid off to say, what the hell happened in the noughties? I tell you what, it's not going to be an easy thing to discuss, and it's not always going to be funny. Some of it's going to be horrible, but Jesus Christ, there's a lot to talk about.
There is a lot to talk about, and you know what? It's definitely you've opened up in me the that decade. You've opened it up for me, actually. So I've got a lot of exploring to do in my own head about that type of also about me as a person. So thanks for that. It's good. It's all healing and learning. But like just the sort of person I was then, because of what was happening around that time period. It's just it has such a knock-on effect to you, doesn't it, in your life and everything. And it's not just an age thing. There is something about these different periods of time and how they affect you and how you grow as an individual. Like, they really do have an impact, and it's really interesting. Like, looking through it all, and like what seems like a really small thing, like something like the Millennium Bug crap, you know, well, that was actually quite profound for us all. Like that had a big knock-on effect for all of us in some ways. So yeah, I love it. Very interesting.
Like I said, like we could talk all day, and what I'll do, I'll get you back on. We can discuss more. We can go into other elements of the noughties, and I want to just keep this going. I think this is going to be something. This is going to be something I think I need to dissect, because I don't understand what happened, and I want to dissect it. And even just talking about these few little things here, it's now reminded me of where I was and where I was going, and I'm interested now.
Yeah, me too. I'm very excited for what you've got to come. What the hell did happen, indeed? What did happen?
When was the noughties? Like, it was just such a weird time for everybody.
Exactly. What was it?
So, all right. Well, thank you for joining me for this little trip down memory lane. I think we kick-started it how we needed to hear some more tales of Sick and Bleach, and no doubt there'll be more coming, right? I might even have to have stories, because by that point, you know, as we get further along down the line, you know, there's definitely some stories of me and Sick and Bleach. You can find them. Well, like I said, you will be coming back. I'm going to get you on board. We will revisit some more noughties recollection. Try and piece together